Today, I stumbled upon a statement claiming that older unmarried women in China are turning into gold diggers. At first glance, that sounds pretty harsh, but if you think about it, a significant number of older unmarried women do seem to fit this description, and they aren't a small group. While it might not be as extreme as being a gold digger, many of these women seem to be looking for ways to benefit from men. They're unlikely to settle down if they feel they haven't gained enough from a relationship. This video will dig deeper into what's really going on. The terms older unmarried women and gold diggers are not really connected. An older unmarried woman refers to single women aged 35 or even 40 who haven't married yet, while gold digger describes women who sacrifice their dignity, soul, or body for financial gain. Clearly, the term older unmarried woman is neutral, whereas gold digger has negative connotations. However, it's undeniable that nowadays, whether in cities or rural areas, the chances of marrying an older woman without significant financial contributions are quite slim. In rural areas, high bride prices are common, and in cities, buying a house is a must. Older women tend to prioritize these factors heavily. Let's break this down. In rural areas, high bride prices are often influenced by older women, especially with urbanization on the rise. Many rural areas face a gender imbalance due to historical preferences for male children, resulting in a situation where numerous men may never marry. Consequently, men who do marry often compete financially, meaning those with better financial situations and higher bride prices have a better shot at starting a family. Younger women in their 20s might not fully grasp this dynamic, but women in their 30s definitely do. Over the past couple of decades, bride prices in many parts of China have surged. Older women in rural areas are acutely aware that their perceived value is much higher than that of older unmarried men. As a result, without significant advantages, many are reluctant to marry. While calling them gold diggers might be a bit extreme, there is certainly a desire to gain more from a man's family. Now, shifting our focus to urban areas, this trend is even more pronounced in larger cities compared to smaller ones. The primary reason is that housing costs in cities are sky high. There's a saying that men should marry younger women because women in their 20s are often more willing to partner with men to build a life together. In China, cultural norms dictate that men should provide housing. However, with housing prices so steep, many women realize that even a lifetime of work might not enable them to buy a home, which makes them eager to improve their quality of life through marriage. Women who can afford their own homes are typically less inclined to marry men who aren't as financially well off, as many women aspire to marry up, seeking partners who have greater financial resources. Hence, in urban settings, a woman's housing situation may not be as crucial. Instead, women with better financial stability are more likely to stay single. These women have higher expectations regarding their partner's financial conditions, and men with better resources often seek younger women. For women over 35 who are still single, have stable jobs, and good incomes, they may look like high-quality partners on the surface. However, the more these women want to enhance their quality of life after marriage, the more they expect it to surpass their pre-marriage standards. Otherwise, they might prefer to stay single. Therefore, many women marry in hopes of social advancement, while men are more willing to compromise. When women are younger and have fewer financial resources, they can easily attract desirable partners. But as women age and improve their material situation while holding onto the same mindset, some may indeed resemble gold diggers, feeling that they need to marry to significantly boost their quality of life. If they don't achieve this, they remain single. After all, there are about 30 million more men than women in China, meaning that for every unmarried woman, at least one man will be left without a partner. In conclusion, while the idea that older women are transforming into gold diggers is a bit of an overstatement, it's clear that such individuals are becoming increasingly prevalent in reality.
The rapid development of the information age has disrupted traditional gender structures in China, making relationships between men and women increasingly complex and, at times, adversarial. In traditional society, men assumed leadership roles, carrying significant responsibilities and obligations. However, in today's modern society, they face greater challenges. Notably, These challenges primarily affect ordinary men from lower or middle-class backgrounds, those who have climbed the social ladder through hard work and talent. Wealthy elites and upper-class individuals are largely insulated from such struggles. Meanwhile, a new wave of feminist ideology, characterized by consumerism and short-term gains, often referred to as gold digger culture, is emerging, profoundly and irreversibly altering gender dynamics. This article explores the plight of ordinary middle-class men who are most affected by the rise of gold digger culture, as well as the challenges faced by high-value women from the same social strata. It excludes wealthy elites who have surplus resources to mitigate such issues, and women from underdeveloped regions whose struggles are often misrepresented by the narratives of urban gold digger culture. The experiences of these rural women, though significant, fall outside the scope of this discussion. Over the past 2 decades of rapid economic growth, men in China have been raised with the expectation of guiding society as builders and protectors. Rooted in ancient survival roles, men often accept responsibilities that sustain societal functioning. This outlook fosters long-term survival strategies, but it also leaves men vulnerable to unrealistic fantasies about relationships, particularly marriage and love. Many men hold onto idealized visions of romantic partnerships, only to find that modern feminism and consumerist ideologies often shatter these illusions. Increasingly, women are adopting strategies to maximize personal gain, treating marriage not as a partnership but as a resource acquisition tool. Women are no longer bound by traditional domestic roles, and some have adopted short-sighted or aggressive tactics in relationships. Behaviors like infidelity, divorce, and financial manipulation are employed to extract maximum benefits, turning marriage into a battleground for resource competition. With the backing of public opinion and media, these actions are increasingly rationalized. Women are often cast as vulnerable figures, earning societal tolerance regardless of the circumstances. This double standard places immense and often unfair pressure on men. The bias extends beyond public perception and into legal and social systems, further amplifying women's advantages in relationships. Modern education and media perpetuate these inequalities. Men are consistently taught to shoulder responsibilities and obligations, but there's little emphasis on fostering healthy interactions or balanced marital relationships. In contrast, women are frequently encouraged to embrace hedonism and aspire to bourgeois lifestyles. Even when women make mistakes, they often receive preferential treatment in public discourse, media narratives, and legal systems, including leniency in marriage laws. Consumerism exacerbates this dynamic, fueling the spread of gold digger culture. Through constant overspending and the depletion of male resources, this culture creates severe imbalances in gender relations. As sociologists have noted, modern China risks repeating the mistakes of Japan's post-bubble era, where men increasingly avoided marriage and birth rates plummeted. Many men lose trust in the institution of marriage due to trauma, spreading disillusionment among their peers, and eroding the foundation of marital relationships. This decline in trust may lead to further commodification of relationships, with service-oriented arrangements becoming normalized and legalized within the economy. At the same time, certain upper-class powers, seeking to accelerate social and economic development, have exacerbated these injustices by promoting policies that favor women's consumer-driven contributions. Marriage laws have further institutionalized women's ability to gain financial advantages through divorce and asset division. As a result, many women view marriage as a shortcut to wealth, while men face significant financial losses and psychological trauma when marriages fail. This institutional bias has allowed gold digger culture to proliferate unchecked. What's often overlooked is that the rise of gold digger culture harms not only men but also ordinary women. Women who reject gold digger values find it increasingly difficult to escape the shadow of this culture. In the marriage market, societal favoritism toward women blurs the line between those seeking genuine relationships and those seeking financial gain, further damaging the perception of women as a whole. By exploiting male resources and promoting short-sighted consumption, gold digger culture undermines women's rights, reducing them to superficial symbols of empowerment. Gold diggers often present themselves as victims, leveraging sympathy to extract resources and social capital from their partners. They justify their actions as morally righteous, yet their true nature often becomes evident when issues like property ownership, dowry comparisons, or asset division arise. In contrast, high-quality women with genuine values refrain from demanding financial support that isn't earned through their own or their family's efforts. Consumerism and media have turned gold digger culture into a societal malignancy. A lack of material wealth or desire for consumption is now stigmatized, and this pathological state has given rise to an economy driven by overspending and shallow aspirations. Many mistakenly believe that consumption leads to a high-quality life, but this is merely a bubble created by capital structures. Beyond fleeting pleasures, gold digger culture offers no substantial benefits for personal growth or family stability. Ordinary women, in contrast, value independence and maintain rational consumption habits. They prioritize financial freedom and take responsibility for their families, rejecting the hollow promises of consumerist culture. However, they too face challenges from a society that increasingly normalizes imbalanced relationships and pushes the costs of these dynamics onto men. Addressing these issues requires comprehensive reforms in education, media, and public discourse. Only by promoting a healthier balance in gender relationships can the conflicts and misunderstandings between men and women be resolved. Economic inequality and insufficient welfare exacerbate marital fragility, leading to generational trauma and declining birth rates. While societal trends may lean toward nihilism and complacency, the ultimate challenge lies in repairing gender relationships through structural, educational, and cultural reforms to achieve true equality.
One defining feature of Chinese capitalism is a commodification of nearly everything, including relationships. Assigning monetary value to intangible aspects like emotional value has become a manipulative tool in romantic relationships, often used to test a partner's loyalty and obedience. This logic reduces gestures of care, communication, and even intimacy to transactions, akin to hiring companionship. In this commodified society, men's emotional support and physical presence are often dismissed as worthless, while financial contributions are deemed essential to sustaining relationships. 20 years ago, money was a taboo topic in romantic relationships. The phrase "better to cry in a BMW than laugh on a bicycle" gained traction precisely because it challenged social norms. Back then, the notion of building a life together through mutual effort overshadowed material concerns, creating a more optimistic view of relationships. During this era, both men and women were optimistic about their futures, fueled by economic growth and globalization. This optimism nurtured a marriage culture centered on love, arguably one of the most idealistic periods in Chinese history. Today, however, the landscape has changed drastically. Men are expected to emulate the wealthy protagonists of romantic fantasies, while women test their suitors against unattainable standards. Generosity is no longer appreciated but scrutinized, and any perceived shortcomings in gifts or gestures can lead to public complaints or reselling for profit. Women now frequently test men's financial capabilities and ambition, with dissatisfaction often leading to criticism and rejection. Men are assumed to funnel their earnings into relationships, regardless of their financial limitations, creating immense pressure. Modern feminist perspectives may argue that previous generations were ensnared by love's moral constraints, portraying men as sacrificial pawns and women as victims. However, this interpretation ignores the drastic shift brought about by fading optimism and economic realities. As economic stratification deepens, women, particularly those with limited education or career prospects, turn to their reproductive and domestic roles as leverage in the marriage market. This strategic adaptation contributes significantly to the rise of gold digger culture. In a society where emotional connections are undervalued, women who commodify their sexual and social resources can reap financial rewards, while those who resist this trend are still compelled to negotiate the best possible terms for their perceived worth. For many women, marriage becomes less about partnership and more about securing financial stability, trading reproductive and domestic contributions for material gain. Ambitious women from wealthier backgrounds, meanwhile, aspire to marry into affluence, leveraging their education and family resources to climb higher in social circles. This dynamic leaves ordinary men wary of marriage. Hypergamy, the preference for marrying up, has made men increasingly cautious. Many choose to delay or forego marriage altogether, recognizing the financial risks involved. For women, this creates a paradox. While they seek to maximize their gains in the marriage market, they face growing skepticism and resistance from men. Women aiming to capitalize on their youth and beauty often target financially stable men, but the latter have become more selective and protective of their assets. The influence of gold digger influencers exacerbates these trends, promoting tactics for women to monetize their appearances and relationships. With the peak value of their marketability, often between 20 and 30 years old, these women are encouraged to extract as much financial benefit as possible, whether through lavish gifts, proposals, or other forms of transactional intimacy. For men, the safest strategy is to engage in short-term relationships, avoiding long-term commitments that could lead to exploitation. For example, consider a couple where the man pays rent and utilities while the woman, studying for exams, contributes nothing financially. This dynamic, though seemingly cooperative, often leaves men questioning the equity of their roles. In urban areas, where women can easily access sexual resources, this imbalance becomes more pronounced, with many women viewing cohabitation as a way to save on rent, while simultaneously benefiting from their partner's financial support. What's more troubling is the growing normalization of exploiting men's resources. Women openly discuss disliking their partners while hoping to extract financial gains from them, with screenshots of such conversations circulating online. In a society that prioritizes women's rights, men's financial contributions are often treated as trophies rather than acts of mutual support. While women rarely lose in this game of exploitation, honest men are frequently targeted, as playboys and seasoned individuals are harder to manipulate. This commodification of relationships reflects the defining characteristics of modernity: transactional, disillusioned, and profit-driven. Gone are the days of idealistic love and mutual growth. Instead, relationships are reduced to financial negotiations, with women wielding increasing power in a market where men are left to safeguard their assets and navigate a culture of mistrust. In conclusion, the rise of gold digger culture has profoundly reshaped the dynamics of Chinese relationships. Men must now approach marriage and relationships with caution, treating financial protection as their primary mission. Meanwhile, women aim to extract as much value as possible during their prime years, perpetuating a system that leaves both genders trapped in a cycle of mistrust and commodification. What remains is a cold, calculated market where money determines the worth of human connections, leaving little room for the optimism and idealism of the past.